So this study looks into big five personality traits in inmates versus normal adults. And this is based in Japan. And I find it weird that they call them normal adults, like inmates aren't normal people. But I think what they're trying to say is people who are inmates versus who aren't inmates. And what's really interesting about this is it finds certain personality traits and it links them to certain crimes the inmates have committed or supposedly committed, been charged for. So for example, you could take a big five personality test and they're free, you can get them online. Maybe I'll leave one below. You can just Google it and probably get one for free. And it might tell you if you're conscientious or extroverted. And let's say you're really extroverted, you might be more likely to have committed or been charged for a particular crime if you are an inmate, which I thought was quite a cool finding and not something I really thought of. And I found this study through mistake when looking for another study for another video idea. So these are the results. We've got 3 different ones here, and violent criminals were found to have lower agreeableness and higher extroversion. Now I guess the lower agreeableness is kind of like no shit. I guess that sounds kind of obvious, but if you're less agreeable, you might be more likely to, well, obviously disagree and then potentially end up in more conflicts. I suppose also if you're higher in extroversion, you're gonna bump into more people. So it's more people you might potentially have a disagreement with, which could potentially end in an altercation with you being charged with violent crime. So I guess that one kind of makes sense. In terms of theft criminals, they got seen as having lower conscientiousness, which effectively means they're like not as hard working, which I find a bit of like a backhand and a bit of an insult, but kind of funny that they're kind of implying that thefts are just kind of lazy. And I guess I'm just picturing them like stealing someone's car because they can't be bothered to get money another way. I don't know. I feel really bad because I feel like that's rude to anyone who like is a theft criminal. So I do apologize. I just do find it quite funny for some reason. And the next is illegal drug use criminals, which are higher in extroversion and openness. I understand the openness because it means they're more open to new ideas. And I think traditionally people who are higher in openness are more likely to try like different drugs and things that might be illegal. And the higher extroversion, I guess they might just be more inclined to do it with other people. I don't really know about that one, but they're definitely, at least from this study, higher in extroversion and openness. Now, they did say that all inmates tended to be higher in extroversion, agreeableness, openness, and conscientious when compared to the normal adults. And again, I find them using normal weird, but that's the kind of terminology in this study. And I found that kind of odd, especially with agreeableness, because from everything I've heard before, it's like, is that criminals and people in prison are less agreeable? At least that's like what Jordan Peterson has said. So I wonder whether just being in prison has made them more agreeable, because I find it hard to believe that people who are going to end up in prison are the more agreeable ones. That doesn't make sense to me. In terms of extroversion, openness, and conscientiousness, I can't think of like any correlation. I guess openness because they might be trying new wacky stuff, like new ideas. And there was a study which assumed prisoners would be lower in conscientiousness, which I think is kind of messed up because I don't see why prisoners would be low in conscientiousness. And it was actually proved to be wrong, and it was like this, and prisoners were found to be higher in conscientiousness. So that's kind of my take on my last bit, but I thought overall it just like was quite a funny study or quite interesting because you can really see how certain personality traits might be linked to certain crimes. I do want to also say I don't want anyone to think I'm making fun of inmates or criminals. I think it's like very unfortunate if you do end up in prison, especially if you didn't do it or just like you made a mistake. I get it, we're all human. So I don't want anyone to think I'm mocking inmates. Like, this is just how I approach everything. And I thought it was really interesting to find that correlation, and it was an idea which I wouldn't have thought of unless I stumbled across it. So I thought it was really interesting, and yeah, I wanted to share it. It would have been cool if I had the full thing, because maybe it would have a longer list of, I guess, crimes and things that could be linked, but I could only find the abstract, which only seems to include these top 3. I suppose if I start making money from this channel, I could like buy it in the future and maybe pay for studies, etc., so I can do more in depth in particular ones. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, thanks again for watching the video.